memo on the main insights of this workshop, in addition to the deliverable. All right, so I think the recording has started. Then Delphine, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Can you see my screen? Because I can only see my presentation right now.
Yeah, we can see your presentation.
Is it okay? Yeah. Sorry about my camera. It's not working apparently today, so I don't know why, but yeah, we'll have to do without. So thank you for being here today in this workshop. As mentioned by my colleagues from ATM, we will talk about educational campaigns. I'm also a partner in the Ride2Autonomy project. I'm from EPF. So before I start, I would really like to very briefly introduce ourselves. So EPF is the European Passengers Federation. So basically we represent public transport users in Europe, all modes, so including long distance modes like air and rail, but also urban transport and also new mobility services. So we have member organizations in many European countries, and some of the main topics we focus on are, for example, passenger rights, seamless door-to-door travel, and also topics like inclusion, accessibility, and taking into account the needs of vulnerable groups. And in everything we do, we always ask what's in it for the passengers. And this is also the reason why we are involved in projects like Ride2Autonomy, because as we all know, we see a lot of technological developments which can bring great benefits. But on the other hand, sometimes these solutions are mostly industry driven. And it's really important to ask ourselves, is this really what people want, or is it really what they need? So adopting a more user-centric perspective is actually quite crucial, I think, when developing such new services like automated mobility shuttles, for example, as in Ride2Autonomy. Now, why is this so important? Well, end users can give really excellent input into research, you know, what kind of solutions do they need? And once the solutions are there, do they answer to these needs in reality? So if we really include end users more in the research, this has many benefits. Firstly, it will foster adoption and acceptance of such new services. Secondly, it will make sure that such solutions are also more inclusive and accessible because we take into account the needs of different groups, including vulnerable users. And thirdly, it will also improve the overall travel experience. So it's really a win-win situation, because if we involve end users, then the perceived value of the services will go up, which will lead to greater satisfaction.
One question: are you still at the first slide? Because that's what I can see. Or
no. Let's try again.
What is everyone else seeing? Is this the opening?
Wait, maybe
slide?
I can do like this.
For some reason, I can switch.
How it's changing, right, or not?
Yes, it's changing, Delphine.
Okay, so what I was showing was this, and then
it's like 2 now and 3 now.
So is this what people really want? We need to ask ourselves. And so now I was explaining why it is important to involve stakeholders and end users. So for the end users, I already said why. So we can really increase adoption, acceptance, and value, and for the end users. On the other hand, we also should not forget about all the other stakeholders, because they need to make it happen, basically. And so we need to involve them as well to create awareness, to create partnerships, to get more insights into their needs and requirements. So both aspects are really important in a case like ours, where we want to introduce really something new. So basically for passengers, they have some general priorities. If you look at public transport as a whole, So we like to present this as a pyramid, because on the bottom you have then these needs that are really the most essential basic ones. And then moving up the pyramid, we also have needs that are important, but we need to focus first on getting the basics right before we can start working on the next levels. And so we can see on the bottom line, safety, reliability are really conditions. If these are not fulfilled, people will just not travel. And then, of course, the offer has to be there. It has to be attractive in terms of time and price. It has to be easy to use, comfortable, and finally, on top of the pyramid, we see experience. So overall, offering a nice experience to passengers will also increase their overall satisfaction. But this is a level we will only reach once everything else is okay. And the reason I'm showing this is because basically for automated vehicles, these needs are sort of the same. We see also safety being a top priority. Cost, willingness to pay is also a concern, because right now we have a lot of pilots that are running, and mostly these are free of charge. But in the future, what will be the cost? Will it be more or less expensive in the end for the end users? And ease of use is also very important. Make sure people know how to use it, because it's something new. So these needs are quite universal, but on the other hand, it's also important to realize that different groups have different additional needs, especially if we think of vulnerable groups like the ones mentioned. I hope you can see the slides that shows them. So, for example, elderly people, children, people who have language issues, people who have low income, and so on. And not to forget also people who have not got a lot of digital skills, because a lot of technological development is really assuming that people can work with this, but it's not always the case. So we need to be aware of this and also find solutions for them. Important to remember on projects like this. So just some key takeaways thinking about stakeholder engagement that we learned from past projects and experience that we had with this. Well, basically, we would like to stress that it's important to involve everyone from the start. So even if you just have the idea, we want to introduce this service, is it really what people need? So even at that stage, it's important to ask everyone, is it the right solution? And then going through the different design stages, the prototypes, then actual pilots, evaluation, and so on. Just keep this engagement as a continuous process. We do realize that it takes time. And so it requires a lot of effort, but it's really worth it, because in the end, it will lead to a better product or service, and also to increased market uptake, which is, of course, from the industry side, also a very important thing. So coming to the main topic then of today, how to develop an educational campaign. So in the rest of my presentation, I will basically start from what work we did in SHOW. SHOW is also a project dealing with automated mobility, and it has a little bit of overlap with Ride2Autonomy in terms of pilots. And the approach adopted here is really also applicable to other sites. So this is why I would like to take you through the steps that we developed in this framework and guidelines document. So just about SHOW, it's a big project. It started in January 2020, and it will run until the end of 2023. And we have really a lot of we have a huge amount of demonstrations in covering different use cases. So we have robotaxis, we have bigger buses, we have some freight delivery use cases as well. So a lot of different things that we are exploring in many different cities, many different contexts in Europe. And so EPF in this project is responsible for end user and stakeholder engagement. And we developed a document to help our pilot sites in engaging their end users and their stakeholders. And it has different steps, and I will go through these steps together with you. And then after the break, we will really talk about it in more detail. And we also would really like to have your input on these different steps. But for now, I will just present them, and so we can work with them afterwards. So first of all, in this process, the first thing to do is, of course, ask yourselves who are your stakeholders and who are your end users. Who are you doing this for, and who needs to be involved to make it into a success? So this really depends on the context, of course. As we can in show, we did an exercise bundling the use cases in a number of different scenarios. You can see them here. So it's a bit of a simplification, of course, and we can think of additional scenarios as well. But even looking at these, you can immediately see that it will involve different end users and also different partnerships. Like in a business park, we will focus mainly on commuters. Hospital sites, we have patients, of course, and also employees. But patients, you know, many will not be that healthy, or they will have reduced mobility. So we need to take that into account. University, school, of course, children, students, and so on. So take a look at the context and identify who needs to be involved. In the show, we had the following list. So the list of potential stakeholders includes many different ones. So basically, it's quite a broad term, stakeholder. It can include anyone who has a positive or negative impact on your project. So it's quite broad. So it can be authorities, operators, but also others like insurance companies, banks, technology providers in the case of CCAM. So these are all included. And in terms of end users, we listed here some of them that are involved in show, but of course there are others possible as well. So the next step in this process is how to communicate with all these stakeholders and these end users, which communication channels are available, which are you planning to use, which are more appropriate for which target group. So I just presented here a list to provide some information. Again, we will work on this further in the interactive session. So it goes from the basics like printed materials. It can be leaflets, posters, stickers that of course you have to then also spread among the users. You can use press, videos, social media, advertising. Apps and booking sites are interesting because this is really nice if the CCAM service is part of the public transport offer and it's integrated in their booking site, for example. So this is really a nice example. Then you have letters and emails and calls. Of course, you need to respect people's rights to, the GDPR rules when doing such a thing. And then you can also go further, do a real marketing campaign, or what we could call in a narrow sense, an educational campaign, really like educate people on how it works, and different channels and tools can be used for that as well, like webinars, infographics, and so on. So some key lessons learned is, if we want to reach our target groups, we need to think about which intermediaries can help us reach them, because it rarely happens that we have direct access to them. For example, if you want to work with children, you need to contact the schools. If you want to work with people with disability, maybe there's an organization representing them in your area. So really, this is quite important to think about. Targeted campaigns, so really use the right means and the right tools to address your target groups. Make sure the information is understandable and also accessible, and choose a variety of channels to increase your outreach. Now, the next step is what I called engagement. Now, the difference between the previous step is that this one is more two-way communication. So what we called communication is basically we inform everyone about the service, but here we want to go a step further and really ask also input from people. So that would be the difference. So there are many different levels of participation. Yeah, it is illustrated by this figure here. So it goes from informing people to really empowering them and everything in between. So there are really a lot of different methodologies also to choose from depending on feasibility, on your objectives. But we really recommend to at least do one or two of these activities with end users during your project to really get some input and feedback as well, and not just informing people as the first step. So here are some examples that we also listed in our guidance document. So we can have surveys and interviews. In show, we also did that. I will say a little bit more about this later on. Focus groups is like group interviews to gather some feedback from a specific target group, like for example, a group of elderly people, a group of people with a disability, and so on. Then something bigger would be citizen dialogue. That's really quite a huge event with around 100 citizens that are gathering together to debate about a certain topic. And this was done by Mission Publique in the past on automated mobility. So it's quite a nice thing to do as well, but it requires more efforts and more budget and more resources. Another thing is crowdsourcing campaigns. It can be done online as well. So to gather people's ideas and maybe reward the best one with a prize, or even, try to realize the ideas that came up. The similar thing is the participation platforms, so allowing people to discuss and to give feedback on different aspects. And you have co-creation workshops, many different types in this category. But yeah, the idea is then to really think out of the box and try to gather innovative ideas, again, if possible, really also implementing them in practice. And the last thing to mention is a hackathon, which is a developer event, which we also are planning in show, and we already did one. I will present it later on. Then another element in our engagement plan is to think about incentivization and nudging strategies. So what we mean by that is think about how to encourage people to use or try out your service. So these are a number of questions to answer in this respect. So people need to know that the service exists. So this is why communication, of course, is so important. They also need to understand how it works. And there we come to the topic of education in a way. But they also need to be motivated to use it. So they need to be aware, why should I use it? What is the benefit for me? In some cases, for example, it can be a good first and last mile solution, connecting an automated shuttle with a tram line, for example. It can be a benefit for people who have reduced mobility, so they don't have to walk. Just some examples to make sure that people understand this. Incentives, rewards, this can be really broad. I mean, offering a first time use for free, for example, is also an incentive. On the other hand, you can really think about little gifts. It's not always necessary, but you can do that during an opening event, for example. Or organize also campaigns like photo campaigns, for example, photo shoots, Instagram competitions, and so on. How to make the service attractive? Again, make it, for example, free of charge in the beginning, integrate it with public transport, so it's really easy to use. And the last important aspect is try out possibilities and human assistance, because in the beginning it's new, so people will need some help finding out how to use it and to reassure them as well. So then the next step, the final step, is really making a customized strategy and adopting, which includes then all the previously mentioned elements. So, you know, who are the stakeholders, who are the end users, how are you going to communicate with them, how are you going to engage them, what are you going to do to make the service attractive, and how will you motivate people to actually use them, use the services, and include also a timeline which can be updated in the course of the project. So this is basically it from my side on this part that is more general. So I don't know if there are any questions or comments. We can also leave them for after the break, of course. So if you think about something afterwards, feel free also to save your questions for them. And otherwise, I will maybe immediately move on to the best practices, unless my colleagues would like to.
I don't see any raised hands or questions in the chat, so I guess you were quite clear on that. Maybe I can ask a question on the crowdsourcing campaign, unless this is something that you will address right now. So it looks like a digital form of gathering input from potential users, but I was just wondering how does this look, and how do you get those potential users into such a campaign? Can you say a bit about that?
Well, we did this in a previous project, and it's an online platform where people can just submit their IDs and rate also the IDs of other people, and yeah, how to gather users. That's, of course, again, you know, you have to disseminate and communicate about the existence of this platform, otherwise you will not get the IDs. So it has to be part of a broader communication, that's for sure. So when it's really, for example, in Rotterdam, we did this together with RET, so the public transport operator of the region of the city. And they have this habit of doing this each year. So people know about it and they really get a lot of interesting input. So then it really can work. So I think we can do something similar, focusing on a specific topic. It even works better because otherwise, you know, you get more inspired if you have something more concrete in mind. So I think even for us, it could be something to consider, even though it also requires some effort. Of course, you have to. There are some platforms that are kind of open source, but then still, of course, you need to adapt them a bit. And yeah, the promotion, getting participants for it is, of course, also requiring effort.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right,
I think
so
yeah.
You can continue with the presentation.
Okay. Yeah. So we move on to the second part of this workshop, which is just a presentation of some best practices. And before giving the floor to our colleagues from the different projects and from Ride2Autonomy as well, I will just continue a little bit because I'm already speaking, and explain or show you a little bit more about the examples, well, show you some examples of how we put this into practice in show. So looking at communication channels and tools, yeah, I will just show you some examples because, of course, we did a lot more. We had a lot of pilots and a lot of different activities, but just to give you an idea. The printed materials, of course, we did leaflets, we did posters. We also had stickers, which you can see here, which were put on the vehicle. So what else did we do? We visualized the stops you can see here at the public transport stop, but also on the road. This is in Linköping. Integrating the services in the public transport planner, as you can see also here on the left. Then there were a lot of sites that did press events or are planning more press events, and this results then also in newspaper articles and so on. We have a lot of different events, and this I would like to show you. Unfortunately, this pilot is really on hold because there's a technical issue, but the campaign itself, I thought was really very, very nice. This is an automated shuttle that was going to connect a railway station in France to a museum with impressionist paintings. So you can see that the design of the shuttle is completely adapted to this purpose. So this was really a very nice idea, and also very nice how they executed the idea in practice. Then something specific we are doing in show is surveys. By the way, you see here the link, so I would really invite everyone to also complete the survey. I will post it in the chat later on as well. So what we are doing is, firstly, we do a priori measurement. So it's acceptance, measuring people's acceptance before they have really used the specific service. It's quite a long survey, and everyone can participate. So everyone who just wants to give their opinion about automated mobility. And then we have a series of acceptance surveys in 3 iterations. So beginning, around the middle, and around the end of the demonstrations. And this survey is shorter, and it's targeted at the people who are actually using the service at the different pilot sites. So we also have different versions per site available in different languages. So it's a different concept. Thank you for posting the link. So please, everyone, fill in our survey because we need as much input as we can get. So yeah, this is something we do. So of course we need to ask ourselves how to get participants, because especially for the longer survey, it's not so easy. We made it a bit shorter by now, so hopefully that will help. But here are some ideas. We have also a survey planned in Ride2Autonomy, and I guess it's always useful to get feedback from people to plan such a feedback mechanism. So here are some thoughts on that. So QR codes in the vehicle, at the bus stop, wherever, basically, also in advertising, you can use them. So people can just scan it and immediately go to the survey. Then, of course, yeah, you need to spread the link through many different intermediaries, like local associations, authorities, the different stakeholders that you have gathered around your pilots, social networks, and so on. You can also have interviewers with tablets, like a kind of guerrilla marketing kind of thing. And then for the acceptance surveys, it's a bit easier, because then we really target people who are in the vehicle, so they can mainly fill it in while they are driving, while they are while they are traveling. So we can do it both on paper and again via QR codes, or with people like the safety driver who is still on board can also present it to the users. And here's some examples of engagement activities just from one site, Linköping, because they really did a lot of different nice things. They target mainly elderly people, children, and also people with a disability were included. So they had different triad sessions with these different user groups. They also had drawing contests, so people, the children at the school could make drawings. They had a name-giving contest for the vehicles. So there were 3 vehicles. They each got a name. I cannot remember which ones, but they were chosen from the different participants' suggestions. You see there also the children getting some non-alcoholic glühwein and fika, you know, in Sweden, the little snack. In the afternoon. So these are really very nice things to do. And what we learned from Linköping, what our pilot leaders there also stress, is that they find it super important to do these things, but it takes a lot of effort, and it's really continuous effort as well, because you keep on getting new users and you need to engage all of them. On the other hand, once your service is better known, then of course less effort will be needed. And then a few words about our ideathons and hackathons, which is also part of our engagement activities in show. Ideathon is basically a co-creation workshop, so we want to gather some new ideas from participants on how to make the services better for end users. And we used personas we presented some personas to the participants to encourage them to identify with different use cases and different people's needs. So we started from a few different scenarios, shuttles for first last mile, mass transit, robotaxis, and also delivery. And then we asked people, you know, what are the challenges and what can we think of to improve them? And then this is a selection of the ideas that came up during our ideathon. And we then picked 3 of them based on feasibility, but also just, you know, what positive impact this would have on the service as a whole. And these 3 ideas were then selected. The first one refers to the need for human assistance, and also the perceived safety and security is important there. The next one is about flexible capacity, so to avoid having not enough vehicles at peak time. Another additional automated bus could come from the depot and join the service. And the last idea is how to really make sure that the service is accessible for PRM using multiple ways of communicating, visual, auditive, and so on. And these ideas were then taken to our first show hackathon, which is a developers event that takes 3 days. So groups of people, multidisciplinary, get together and they really try to develop actual solutions to these challenges. And I do have a little video, but I don't think we have time to. I also don't know if it will work if I try to play it, but I could try. But maybe I can just post the link afterwards also in the chat for people who would like to see it, because I think we will need to move on to the next speaker.
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
There is a question from Christian Delphine. He asked I don't know, do you see it in the chat?
Yeah, I can see it, yeah. But actually, I would like to keep that question for the interactive session.
Okay, hang on.
We'll come back to that. It's an important question, of course. I will stop sharing my screen.
Okay, so this was the end of your presentation from show. So I think, thank you for that, Delphine. A lot of information, a lot of insights. Let's discuss indeed later on, and I'll continue with sharing information. So Niels, are we going to show the slides for Niels?
We can, or if
I can share it.
Yeah,
I can share my screen.
Okay.
Cool.
Let me know if it works. Just share the whole screen. You should be able to see something.
Yeah,
we've got it. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. My name is Niels Nijdam. I'm from the University of Geneva, and I'll be talking a little bit about the Avenue project. So the Avenue project, it started in 2018. It's about 20 million euro and 15.4 million euro of EU contributions. We have 20 partners and 7 sites, which turned out to be 4 main sites, and later on we had Sion, and in some places we had several sites. So for example, in Geneva, we started out in one place and then we extended to another place. But the main deployment sites are Geneva, Copenhagen, Lyon, and Luxembourg. I will go faster because it's a 5-minute presentation. So the main target for the Avenue project was the implementation for a on-demand, door-to-door public transportation service. So what does it mean? well, we have the development of new services around this concept of automated vehicles. Services such as follow your kid, that you have control over when, where, for example, your children are going using this new type of transportation. Then the command control communication system, so the whole backend, you have a whole stack of new stakeholders and partners that for operating these kind of services. And then we have a work package on the safety, security, and resilience. This means the physical safety, the cybersecurity, the data privacy. So we have a bit on the GDPR and stuff like that. And then, of course, the main operators, the transport operators, who need to put it into place for the demonstrators. From there, we look at the socio-economic and environmental evaluation. So we have deliverables that are already public. So as the project is about to end in October, we had an extension from March due to various reasons, COVID to name one, obviously. But also one interesting key point was that one of our main partners went bankrupt. It was the fleet operator. As a result, interestingly, is that we now have a lot more diverse fleet operators. So we have Padam, we have Aoki, we have Movia, to name a few. And then the ultimate outcome is a roadmap as a deliverable. A recent study that I would like to point out, I think that might be interesting for this workshop, is a survey that was conducted by the Hochschule of Pforzheim, namely on the adoption of automated minibuses for public transport. The general consensus is that it is very well received. Still room of improvements, and this is highly linked to the mobility needs, so to say, as one of the conclusions of their paper. So here, just to state, so the usage of the automated minibus, the question on reducing your own individual transportation, I think this is a major question for many cities as well, especially well, here also in Geneva, they plan by 2030 to reduce individual transport by 40%. So these kind of new services need to be in place by then, otherwise it will not work. In addition, willingness to increase the use of public transport. So this comes down to, again, the mobility needs, where we are talking about the effectiveness, their cognitive relief, so the meaning ease of use, convenience, so to say, are among the most important ones. Less important, and interestingly, was need for environmental relief and financial relief. So this survey, it was done at all the major sites from within the project. In this slide, we see the agreement to the uptake on mobility, automated minibuses, and there is still room for improvement, but the positive note is that there is already a high acceptance, and they're generally satisfied with the experience of one, especially those who tried it out, and I will come to an example hereafter. However, an important requirement for users to switch from their private car to an AM service is that they can increase the user flexibility. So there's this absolute need for on-demand and door-to-door. And it should be fully integrated with the public transport. So you should have the continuation of your journey, so to say. So I would like to present one of the sites. So it's the Belle-Idée that we have here in Geneva, operated by the TPG, so that's the local transport, public transport operator. Here we have the aerial view of the Bellide, which is a hospital area, a psychological clinic, and it consists of several buildings, but there are also people living in this area. There are restaurants in the main road. I don't know if you can see my cursor. On this line, there are big buses still going there. And all the numbers you see around, those are virtual stops. So there are about 70 plus virtual stops. And basically it provides a door-to-door service where you simply can call up the shuttle, and then the shuttle comes automatically to the user wherever it was ordered. So here we have some more photos and the service and the monitoring. So we have a depot. Currently it looks like, let me go to this. So this looks like the depot. It's automated, so the garage, it opens when the vehicle comes. The only thing we don't have yet is automated charging. And here on the side is currently the local operating monitoring of the vehicles. So what we see here. And yeah, and then here we have a view on the inside. Well, I think most of the people here should be familiar with the Navia shuttles. So that's my short presentation. If you have any questions, let me know.
Yes, thank you for that, Niels. A very concise presentation. Of course, a lot has been done in Avenue, so we're excited to see the final results in October. Is there a final event planned?
Yes. Now I'm not entirely sure on the dates yet.
Okay,
so
and it will be.
I can share this information, but personally, I'm not. I'm not sure it's fixed yet.
Okay, that's okay. We'll wait patiently for it. It's probably a single event and not attached to another conference. I mean, the World Congress is a month earlier, so okay, we'll wait for that. Are there any questions on Avenue? If I don't see anything in the chat, maybe things will come up later in the discussion. I noticed, Niels, you mentioned socioeconomic and environmental impact analysis. So the environmental impact analysis was also an important element of Avenue. Can you say a little bit about this? To what extent there are any positive effects to be expected?
Yes, I do not have the data in front of me, to be honest, as I did not prepare for that question. But I know that there have been studies done as well, indeed, by the same group, in fact, because they are, it's the work package 8 for that matter, where they investigate also the costs, benefits, and the balance between it. So it all depends on reducing the individual mobility first and foremost. That was one of the conclusions I can give on that.
Okay. Yeah, that probably relates to the question that you showed on the willingness to give up your individual vehicle. So we'll look at that deliverable later to get a bit more insight there. Thank you, Niels.
Yeah, my pleasure. Let me see if I can.
So if there are no additional questions, I think we now go to the presentation from Tartu. Are we showing the slides? Floris?
That can be done. I think Pirko sent them to me.
Yeah, Pirko.
Pirko wants to share them.
I can also say, if you allow me to share the screen,
Yeah,
I can do it myself.
Yeah.
Do you see my screen?
Not yet.
Let me see. Let me try. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, I can see it.
See the screen. Yeah.
Okay. So modern mobility in cooperation with Tartu City made a pilot in Ride2Autonomy from end of the August until the early November last year. So our pilot is over, and we can tell a little bit how we build the awareness and how we kind of try to involve different interest groups from the city to kind of introduce the autonomous vehicles. So about the route, we choose the route from city center to be connecting to National Heritage Museum, which is a very important interest point in Tartu City. And when we picked the route, we used existing bus stops so that it is kind of it would be a very natural part of the public transport system. And we also designed the scheduler to make it more clear for users to understand when they can use the shuttle. During this 2-month pilot, we served more than 900 passengers, and we drove more than 2,300 kilometers. And it was quite popular in Tartu, so even it was chosen one of the Deed of the Year in Tartu in 2021. So we put quite a lot of attention for opening and building the awareness around this route, involving local newspapers and also cooperating with museum so that it could be the natural part of the kind of exhibition visit. And we were also lucky that the director of the museum was in the process of to be elected the president of Estonia. So it was kind of finalized 3 or 4 weeks later. So we had like future president opening the line, and we were very happy on that to use it. And we got the coverage also not only in Estonian media, but also international media. And this was like we worked in personal with several news agencies to have the media coverage. And even we agreed some of the visits during the pilot so that there were journalists making kind of their stories and publishing them during the pilot too, so that it wasn't just one event, but we tried to a little bit spread it across the whole piloting period. And why we chose the route of the museum was that we wanted to have different user groups. The museum is interest point also for families visiting Tartu. It is for local people. There are also kindergarten and class groups are visiting the museum. So having this route to the museum was a good opportunity to have all different groups represented. And maybe to go to more on the experience, then one of the learnings was that the expectation of the users, what we learned during the pilot was that they expect that the service is fully ready, even if it is a pilot. That means they don't look at it as a kind of a scientific experiment, and that means there is also kind of expectations management needs to be done. that they really understand that there might be some delays with the bus, or there might be some problems with the route, that the service is not working so fluently, maybe that then the service was not during the pilot. But still, people are very curious about innovation, and even so that maybe they show in service that they have kind of a fear against this kind of autonomous technology. Actually, as a shuttle speed was limited to 20 kilometers per hour, they felt quite safe, and it was, I think, this kind of choosing the right speed and making this kind of feeling of safety, it is important. And then people are really open and curious to learn and ask. And we also used this kind of feedback survey on board the bus. We had a QR code that they could give us a quick feedback back also. I think the connection with the National Heritage Museum was a very clever choice. What we came out with the city, as I mentioned, that this really covered a wide variety of different interest groups, and we really had their very different passengers for whom we could get some feedback. And as there is in a shuttle is also a safety driver, then there was a good way to also have this kind of face-to-face feedback from the passengers. For an opening, we managed to link the piloting phase in a way that this opening of the route was linked to a major tech event in Tartu called Startup Day. On that event, there was like more than, I think, 2,000 visitors. So it really got the attention, and was kind of a good moment for a kickoff. One key learning is that there are on an operational level, you have to be on a communication really fast, because there are problems are evolving. There is some car parked on the wrong place, or there could be some problems with the shuttle. What we also discovered that during the colder weeks, the battery wasn't sufficient for driving the pre-planned schedule. So we need to quickly give a feedback and have a communication that maybe the last departure of the shuttle is cancelled, and so on. And something what is, I think, the thing to avoid, and why this kind of communication is really important, is that the frustrated user due to bad information is a really could give a really negative impact. We had a few cases where really people were standing and waiting for a shuttle, and the operator didn't let know to. We had basically agreed a communication channel with the city PR office and also the museum information desk, that they have like operational information if something is changed. But there were a few cases where a shuttle didn't depart for a last circle, and people were waiting for a shuttle, and of course they were disappointed. And we need to handle these cases. But in general, I think it was really positive, and it is always the best to link it in somehow as a very natural part of the public transport. So this is shortly what I wanted to talk about. If you have any questions, I'm really happy to share our experience.
Okay, thank you, Pirko, for that presentation. Of course, I have to ask you, the pilot was a success, so I assume that it is now operational, or is the shuttle itself in the museum now?
The route is not operational at the present, and the reason is very simple, and it is socio-economic. As at the moment, the price of the operation of the shuttle is too high still, but for a city, city was really happy, and city actively is looking for kind of new piloting. And no, we are basically waiting that the price of technology is coming down, because at the moment the price is exceeding the regular shuttle operations around 2 times or something. So we need to come down with the price. And the second obstacle at the moment still is that the speed of operations of the shuttle is not sufficient. So the technology needs to a little bit evolve so that it would be economically operational. But with our partner Auvetech, we are knowing that the price level is coming closer. So expecting that in coming 2 or 3 years, we are able to have this changing point where turning point where this kind of shuttle lines could be also economically reasonable.
Okay, thank you for this insight. So there's a need for speed and a positive business case that is still lacking.
Maybe I have one more question, Pirko. As you mentioned, the importance of being able to communicate real time, because it frustrates people if the shuttle's out of service and you don't know about that. If you have known this from the beginning, what types of communication resources or strategies would you have used differently in order to make sure that people are already updated on the real-time information?
I think what is important is actually going to very basic things, that there should be information phone numbers where you can really call to the shuttle operator, or where people can get a very simple and easy way the information. Of course, having a mobile app is a fancy technical solution, but if we think that the average user is not knowing which kind of app or where to go to on a web page to look with their smartphone, then actually the most useful thing is to have some kind of hotline number where they can call and ask where is the bus.
Okay, thank you. Christian, you also had a question or maybe more comments, so maybe you can start your presentation with that.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. I'm just going to share my screen very quickly. See if that works.
Yeah.
Can you see it? Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the comment that I had was basically the fact that we realized the comment of people that they were expecting like a fully ready service, or like a technology that's now being rolled out and it's going to be there for years and years to come, and that it's not a pilot. And even the concept of a pilot is very difficult to grasp, I think, for people, especially the bus drivers that we used for the safety operators in our case. They were very, I mean, they expected like, a Starship like kind of technology to be deployed. And then, when they get trained to actually operate it, they were very negative towards the technology itself. And they were saying, this is never going to happen in the streets. And we also felt like this sentiment was sometimes conveyed to the users as well. That's something that we observed. And maybe that's also a problem, at least something we should have addressed at the beginning, because we never really clarified that it was a pilot, or what the actual purpose is of doing such a pilot, and the next steps and such. But yeah, that was basically why I wanted to mention that as well. But very quickly about myself, my name is Christian Riester from Pendle Mobility.
And Christian, just came to my mind. So basically, you said there was a bit of a negative sentiment from the operators. Does that have anything to do with the fact that they are, I think they are bus drivers? Is there a perception that these machines are taking away their jobs?
By the bus drivers, actually not at all. At least those who were trained to do the job, they were very happy to become safety operators. But especially after seeing the technology, they were not scared at all of this technology taking over their jobs anytime soon, let's say. Okay. I mean, they could see that it would make sense in certain environments right now, but we'll talk about that later probably. It was more the general public that is afraid of bus drivers losing their job than the bus drivers themselves, I would say. But
okay, thank you for that. Continue.
Yeah. My name is Christian Riester from Pendle Mobility, and we deployed a shuttle at the port of Barcelona. Here, very quickly, for those who haven't seen that before, the route itself, it basically connected a parking lot for port employees with the main office building of the port here on the right-hand side. The parking is on the lower left side. And the objective was basically to test a real use case in a port environment. So we basically wanted to see if it works to just deploy a kind of commercially available vehicle from EasyMile in such an environment and see what happens, basically. And what happened was, maybe something we can see in this video, I can say it worked very well, technology and tech-wise. I hope you can see the video, so I'm just going to try and can you hear me? Yeah, so that was our little video. It was basically taken during the launch event where most of the Ride2Autonomy partners were there as well. Main person that video was the president of the port, who's also very a big local politician. So he liked it. He liked it a lot. He actually experienced quite a heavy emergency brake. But no, people very liked it a lot. The port of Barcelona, also the users liked it a lot. And what I wanted to say as well before going into the main feedback is, what did we do around it? Basically, in terms of a communication strategy, we developed a website dedicated to the pilot. We sent out a lot of LinkedIn posts. I can tell you, we really didn't know what to do in terms of communication. So we had to look at, what Joe was doing, what all the other pilots were doing. So that's why I asked earlier in this workshop, what is the most impactful things that you could do in terms of communication to reach out and inform potential users and stakeholders about the pilot. In the end, we basically created this QR code, which brings you to a link tree. I invite you to try it out. It also brings you to a survey, to the flyer and a brochure about the pilot in 3 languages, in Catalan, Spanish, and English. during and right after the launch event, we received quite some press or media attention. So the local TV station or radio would come over and shoot some footage at the pilot location. Also, documentary makers reached out to us. They wanted to do a documentary about the future of jobs. Quite interesting. So I hope we will receive the final documentary soon and can share it with you guys. Afterwards, like when the pilot really started to operate at the beginning of June, the interest died down a little bit at least from the newspaper side, and we kind of went into pilot operation, 4 hours a day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, and that went throughout June. And now we basically completed our pilot two weeks ago. Vehicles already transported back to Toulouse. And we are now kind of gathering all the data and summarizing what we found out. And that's maybe one of the first things that I want to share is not just good sentiment that we received, but also, especially online, quite some negative feedback, especially on Facebook. So this post from a very well-known Facebook account, or like a media agency with 500,000 followers. They posted this article in Spanish about our pilot. And I would say the majority of the comments were very negative, almost, troll-like. So people thought we were going to reduce the population for some reasons, going to destroy millions of jobs. Everything will be automated, and we're going to implant chips probably, and the 5G antennas is going to destroy the world. Very weird. Also, we didn't really know how to address that, but I kind of wanted to show it because, I mean, this is very visible. I mean, 500,000 people see that. And when you click on comments, those are the first on the right side. Those are the first comments that you see. I really don't know how to reply to that, but for sure it's worth sharing as well. On the other hand, very nice feedback. We were, as I said, on local TV and everything. We have some initial data to share. First and foremost, that we didn't have any major technical issues, apart from some emergency stops here and there, which are basically caused by very reckless driving of other road users, not by the vehicle itself or by technology faults, mainly by taxis, bikes, and e-scooters, and also delivery trucks who were very impatient, even though we were on a street that always had 2 lanes. They would basically overtake the vehicle and just cut the line a bit too soon, or like 2 people overtaking at the same time. It's certainly not legal. Maybe it's a thing of Southern Europe. Bus drivers and truck drivers who were also very much frequenting that road, they were much more careful, much more tolerant towards us. But indeed, the people who have high urgency to go places really caused the vehicle to stop a lot due to safety, of course. Another operational issue that I might be able to share is there were a lot of tourist group crossing the crosswalks, and you had the situation of who goes first. Of course, the vehicle stops, but then hundreds of people just come over and they just don't stop. So what you should do as a vehicle is just slowly start driving, but you cannot if you're an autonomous vehicle. So that was quite funny to see. So you would stay there for minutes because people just come on going over the crosswalk. So yeah, that was interesting to see. Then some other other insights regarding social acceptance. We had a very small ridership, so maybe 5 to 10 people a day using the shuttle. 10 was already a lot. Some reasons might be that it was only open for the port employees. I mean, we were connecting a parking location with the main office when most of the employees actually took the metro to work. We could have known that before, but the route itself was just very nice to use, and it sounded like a nice, use case. But I guess we should have connected the metro station with the office building, which I guess could be a nice idea for the second generation of this pilot, or a longer-term deployment. Also, like connecting the metro would have been much more tricky, so we didn't do that in the first place. But those are just assumptions from our side. We are now conducting surveys together with the Port of Barcelona and their communication team, also to conduct interviews. Another reason that for sure basically decreased the willingness to take the vehicle was that people wanted to go to work or to go back home, so they were not willing to wait for the vehicle if it was not already there. So we heard that a lot, that people just didn't see the vehicle at the moment when they were trying to go home. And I mean, if it's 6 p.m. you want to go home, you're not going to wait for the vehicle to arrive in 10 minutes or so. So yeah, in general, it was a big success, I would say, because technology worked. We tested the use case. It would have worked had we chosen different destinations. Technology was actually quite good, in my opinion, not from the bus driver's opinion. But yeah, you have to kind of, for the next time, we have to make sure that we anticipate better reckless driving and also how to deal with tourist groups, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's maybe the short summary of what I can already share today. And yeah, of course, we're going to develop all kinds of useful reports and documents. Any questions?
Thanks, Christian, for this clear presentation. I have one question myself in relation to educational campaigns and the taxi drivers. Would it be, if you would do it again, better to educate them and bring them in much more earlier to educate them on this new type of vehicle which they need to overtake several times per day? With regards to the limitation also of this automated shuttle, maybe also the tourist, that they know, well, we need to stop on this crosswalk because otherwise the shuttle would never go. Educate those other road users in advance.
I guess so. I mean, educating the tourists would be tricky because they arrive in cruise ships, so you cannot talk with them beforehand. But I guess like signs and posts would have been very useful. We didn't do that just because of time and budget restraints, basically. So we really wanted to focus on the must-dos, kind of. I think we did it quite well, but indeed now knowing these things, it would have been useful to have some more signages across the route, especially at those crosswalks. Regarding the taxis, I guess we could have talked to the taxi association or something, but I'm really not sure if it would have changed anything, because the route is actually on the main street that connects the city with the cruise ship terminal, and it's like a major business opportunity for the taxis to just race down to the cruise ships, pick up the people, come back to the city, and do the same again. I guess we should have done it, yes, but I'm not sure if it would have affected the result in the end. Kind of a tricky route in that sense.
Yeah. Pirkko, I see that you have a question.
I just wanted to amend that I think educating drivers it's rather difficult, but we also had the same situation, and doing various other projects we have learned that actually this kind of impatient drivers can kind of have a very big impact, because for a shuttle it's very difficult to understand what the other drivers are doing, especially when they during a rush hours driving very close to each other, and there is not this kind of safe area around. And we have thought on actually having some kind of signs in the future on a shuttle, or even having a screen for other drivers to send some kind of messages that be patient, or now it is safe to pass by, or I think these kind of things are important. But you cannot probably not going and having a training for them, but this is something you can kind of teach them during a practice. Thanks.
Indeed, yeah, good point. I mean, one of the minimum things that we did after a week was to attach a sticker that says, I'm a self-driving vehicle, I'm learning, in Catalan, so that the local drivers can understand. Didn't really change much, to be honest. But yeah, indeed.
We had also this sign. The bus is only learning to drive.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting information. I think it's good to take maybe 2 or 3 minutes to grab a coffee, tea, or make a bathroom run while we are preparing the interactive session with the mural. So we will be back at 10:58.
Thanks.
All right, so it's 10:59. I hope that everyone had some coffee, water, toilet visit. I shared in the chat a link to the mural board. Once you click on that, you can enter the mural, choose to write your name or just visit anonymously. And I think there are like 18 people in the meeting, so I would expect 18 people in the mural board, -1 because Tom is here. So there are some people coming, follow fish, sea turtle, Monopellas. So just a brief exercise to how to use a mural. We can go to the first column, where are you from? Just to see the variety of this group, double click anywhere and there will be a sticky note popping up. And double click on a sticky note to type your answer there. So in the first column, just type where are you from, and then you can see how differentiated this group is. I think I know some of the Ride2Autonomy partners. There's a hand raised by Palak. Not anymore. So you can zoom in and zoom out as much as you like. So far I see Spain, Netherlands, France. The other ones are maybe in an airport.
Can you show it online?
I think I can share the screen as well online with. So Colombia, wow, Belgium. In Colombia, it's like 6 a.m., 5 a.m., maybe earlier. Who's from Colombia?
Well, I
Or
thought
is it
there
Daniel?
wasn't any
That's also-
any mystery. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Cairo, Portugal, Luxembourg, Germany. All right, so I think you know how to use the MURAL board. Yeah, in relation to what we have seen in the presentations, and especially I think the presentation from Delphine, we would like to follow these 4 steps in defining your educational campaign. So starting with the target groups, then think of other stakeholders and how to communicate to the stakeholders, which resources do you use, and eventually some engagement strategies. So, and this may be different for any pilot, but also for those of you who don't have a pilot, just think about different target groups, end users who in your city or in a hypothetical city will be your target group, the end user. And I'll already think of characteristics related to this end user so that we can later establish communication resources. And this can be different for everyone. So just in the column for target groups, type some end users or specific people that you wish to target via an educational campaign. To use the shuttle.
Activiteiten, ik ga niet typen.
Yeah, so not only per se for the Ride2Autonomy pilot, it can also be for a hypothetical new pilot that you wish to set up, or maybe a city, your own city. This is very important first step to define. I think for Reggio Emilia, for instance, I don't know if they're here. It's only the Max Mara employees. Well, for Barcelona as well, the port employees, and then that defines the next steps and the communication strategies. So tourists, citizens, employees. Authorities, elderly people. Still some empty notes, so maybe people created them but forgot what they want to answer. Students. And in the next columns, we would like to start some polling as well to see which answers you think are best. And then we can also dive into the question which Christian pointed out. So what are the most effective communication resources? But it also, it all starts with defining your target group. And what are some characteristics of these target groups? I see someone typed elder dies. I think it may be elderlies. I can think of one, that elderlies do not have maybe the best mobility options, or you should provide them with good mobility options door to door. Also maybe disabled people in wheelchairs. I think in Barcelona you had, Christian, the rolling, or was it Barcelona? I think so, right? That you have for wheelchairs a plateau which can be rolled out.
Yeah, that was in Barcelona.
Yeah. It was actually used around 1 time a day, actually.
And people knew that it was there, or was it just for the demonstration to show that it could be rolled out?
It was used 3 times a day. I think twice for just showing that it's there, but around once a day for actual people with like reduced mobility or something.
Right. So let's move into the next column, other stakeholders. I see some answers already there. Well, think maybe about also the other road users, the taxi company, police. This is also very different for the pilots. Some may drive on private roads, some public. So think of any stakeholder you need to involve. Maybe other mobility service providers, yeah. Maybe Delphine, if you think there are things missing or interesting notes as well for police. I think there are many more, but maybe start with these two. So we have the target groups and other stakeholders. Now we can dive in communication resources, and there Delphine showed a quite extensive list: printed materials, press, videos, social media, advertising. There are many ways to communicate to your target groups and stakeholders, but just try to fill in the ones you can think of. Maybe we can add them with the list. I have it on the other screen here, and then we can start a poll in which we try to find the common denominator on which everyone wants to use. Maybe what's the most cost effective. Thinking of a budget. Do you have a budget, or do you just think that communication goes mouth to mouth by itself?
Yeah, so the assumption here is initially with unlimited budget, what kind of communication resources can you think of? And then later we will ask you, okay, if you have now a limited budget and you can only choose 3, which ones would you choose? So no limits initially.
So a Zeppelin with flyers above the city.
Yeah. Spray paint on the tarmac.
Yeah, well, at least I think Delphine showed a figure with
projected stops.
Yeah.
For other stakeholders, I would say also think about, if you target certain groups, how can you reach them? Like tourists, I mean, what kind of intermediaries can you think of? Students the same, elderly people the same, because I don't see much many other stakeholders in that column. So I'm sure that many can be added. So.
Yeah, so for tourists, you could think about Airbnb or travel agencies. For elderly, it's nursing homes or other organizations.
Feel free to add also, eh? Tom.
Ah, yes.
Why not?
Facilitator and initiator.
Mm-hmm.
The other stakeholders, also municipalities, industries. I know, Christian, that you had some trouble with getting everything how do you say, confirmed. Well, it was mouth-to-mouth confirmed, but not on paper, and that's caused some delays. So these are also, I think, interesting lessons learned. So to keep everything in an early stage written down, and you can never, I think, engage stakeholders too early.
Exactly. I mean, especially if you need permits. I think we talked about this before, that we got the okay, it's at least verbally, from the Port of Barcelona to deploy the shuttle, and they told us we don't need any other permit from anybody else. But as soon as the Spanish Transport Authority got wind about the project, they said, "But hey guys, you're operating on public streets. You need an exception permit or authorization." And then nobody really knew how long this would take, what you need to do, and yeah. So I guess we should have gotten some, signatures at least earlier on.
And try to limit your sticky notes to one answer so that we can vote later on specific answers and not bullets. The invitation of local press. I think that all pilots at least have plans or have done already to invite press. So that's good. Gives nice pictures. Influencers. Can someone who typed social media influencers maybe elaborate, or have you tried to use influencers or?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So within the Avenue project, we at one point switched to reach out to influencers. So we have quite a few YouTube videos where we invited these so-called influencers from different countries. And just to let them experience, and they bring usually their own equipment on and let them do the whole production of the video and everything. And it has a good outreach as well, because some of those channels, they are quite big.
Good. Interesting. I will try to start a poll, but then let me stop sharing my screen. Maybe Tom can share his if you would like.
I'm losing my sticky notes all the time. Okay, so I'll try to, yeah. Laat ik nou zien, letten. Ja.
So I hope this works. You can all begin the voting. So choose 3 of the communication options with unlimited budget. Just feel free to, and I think some answers are maybe including multiple answers. So that's easy. But yes, make sure you click on 3 different, or maybe the same, that's also possible. Sticky notes. Many people have still 3 votes left.
En als je 3 hebt gedaan, moet je dan ergens op drukken.
No, so if you're done, just wait. We'll end the voting
So
session.
everybody sees my.
Yeah, everyone sees your voting. Yeah.
It's completely anonymous.
Still some people with 3 votes left. You can see Emilia has still 3 votes left, or maybe she left, or it's too difficult. Matti has 2 votes left. So I will give you 10 seconds. And I will end the voting session now. End session for everyone, yes. So voting results, I think you can all see them. 10 votes for PR, social media, news, flyers, and posters. Well, of course, it's an easy answer because it's multiple answers in one sticky note. But yeah, maybe Delphine, if you would like to comment, also feel free to say something on these answers, because this relates to the question that Christian asked in the chat. What's the most effective way to communicate? And in a moment we will dive into a limited budget, but that's, I think, for everyone different.
But of course, the one with the most votes has also many elements, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure what exactly people then voted for. Of course, like social media, it doesn't cost much, so it's quite feasible. Local press, I think it's also a good idea if you can. It's an easy way to reach a lot of people. Let me see what else is here. I can scroll down. But again, I think it really depends which target group you have in mind. So, like, you know, if you are working with the employees of Barcelona Port, you will do something else than if you want to like address the tourists. Even if this in the same city, you will use different means of reaching out to them, I guess.
Are there any people who see these new answers and think maybe if the pilot is yet to come, yeah, to change their plans, or if you haven't made any plans, think, well, maybe I will use influencers now? Any people who change their mind or agree with what's been said here?
I guess for a pilot with a target group like that is the general public, influencers probably make a lot of sense to invite, even though I don't support the system, but probably makes a lot of sense, yeah, because they have a massive outreach.
All right. Maybe we can try this exercise again, but then with a tight budget, limited budget, and maybe we can try to, disconnect the answers from multiple sticky notes, so that it's only one answer per sticky note, and then try again to find. Well, if you have no budget, or at least a very small budget, for what's the most effective way, and I think that's the actual question that Christian asked.
So if you can choose only one,
Yeah,
you can choose only one option.
I'm just curious about inverse graffiti. What's that?
Yeah, I put that there. What you can do is at some dirty walls, you can actually clean it strategically to have words or images pop up. Because you do not want to spray paint all over the town. That would give you a negative perception. There are some very nice videos that you can find on YouTube on inverse graffiti. Gaan we terug. Dan moet jij...
I think you can just close the. Yeah. Yeah, let's try to have no double answers and only one answer per sticky note. So if you can all try to go for that. Flyers, posters.
But is there another vote going on right now?
No, I don't think so. I've closed the vote. The answers are still there. I've also taken screenshots, so maybe it's for me also the first time to use a poll or a vote in a mural board, but I think so far so good. Can hide the votes, so that's better. Right, so are all answers now unique? If so, I will start another vote. And then, so limited budget, choose 3.
No, choose one.
Choose 1, sorry. So now you only have 1 vote. Yeah, choose the one that suits you best, or that you think is the most effective with limited or no budget though. And don't try to follow Tom. Zet op het andere stuk.
No, 0 votes left. Okay, dan
Yeah, so if you accidentally voted for the wrong vote, you can click with shift. So shift click and the vote will be removed from the sticky note. So almost everyone. Still waiting for Daniel, Matti, Sunak, Emilia. I'm just pointing out.
It's completely anonymous, this session.
Well, if you have typed your name, it's not anonymous anymore. Right. Still waiting for 4 people. So I think I will just close. Still 4 people, 3 people waiting. It's a difficult question.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do a countdown. 3, 2, 1, over.
All right. So top results: social media, 5 unique voters, and invitation of local press, TV stations, newspaper, etc. Yeah.
That also kind of reflects that if you have no budget, what can you still do? And inviting the press doesn't cost you any money. Well, I assume. And social media, okay, you can generate social media content with very limited resources. Could be for free. Of course, if you have some budget, you can make it look a bit nicer and more professional. And then some unique votes for a demo mobile app, bus stop flags, and the QR code. Of course, a QR code means that there is a website behind it with information.
Yeah.
Who wants to reflect on this? Is this something that we are already seeing at most of the pilots? Am I on mute? No.
No. Just a question to a big audience then. New messages. Yeah, Christian says that it really took much more time than expected to produce pilot websites, flyers, QR codes with minimum impact. These things. Maybe Delphine, from your experience, yeah, can you reflect on this statement by Christian?
It does take effort, that's for sure. I mean, you cannot expect, you know, to that it happens all by itself. I think the two things that got the most votes here are, I agree with them actually, that social media and trying to get the press involved. In addition, press, I would see it quite broadly, also really collaborate like with the municipality, for example, because they also have people working on this. They have people, mostly you have like maybe a magazine that every citizen gets every month in their either in their mailbox, online or offline. So take advantage of things like that. It's very broad outreach and it costs you less money and less effort if you can collaborate on such things. That's what I would definitely recommend. Yeah, and try to like for example, if you collaborate also with a bus company, I mean, people who are already on the bus, and if you put your posters over there, then they will see it. You know, use things that are kind of obvious, where you can get a lot of people at the same time. Bus stops, and also hubs. Like once in show, they did a launch event, and they simply did it at a public transport hub, and the shuttle was also passing there. But and this way, you also reach a lot of people that maybe will not even use the shuttle, but they do hear about the announcement that it will be there, and maybe they will see it pass by it and notice it actually. Yeah, so try to find synergies as much as possible. And join forces with your stakeholders. And think about who exactly you want to reach, because if it's really a first last mile service, or is it something meant to help elderly people from a retirement home reach the city, for example, that go there. And really, you know, try to have some personal contact. Then it's not just about the quantity of people that you reach, but also about the quality. It depends on your objectives as well.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not the only one who can give advice here. Other people have experience and who are present in this workshop, so maybe some other people are welcome to give some advice as well.
Yeah, maybe some practical experiences from Pirko and at the museum. Did you use maybe advertising there? Maybe screens. There are specifically for those specific locations options to think of without being too generic. It may also be quite cost efficient.
Yes. No, basically what we did, we have used social media also, and we with the help of city PR, they used to engage local people. They used their channels mainly, so they organized for us a lot. We didn't have to kind of make a kind of duplicated approach, so they kind of decided which channels and how strong to go. And yes, museum was also helpful, so we had some kind of information available as a poster also in museum. But we did go on very low tech, because also we decided it is more easy and faster to make a poster than to agree and sync with all these digital screens what they have. It wasn't so easy.
On the other hand, you might argue that once you have a digital or a physical poster, you also have a digital version of that poster, which you might spread among other transport services, screens at the museum, etc.
Yeah, sure. This is totally true. And I think if we talk about public transport organizations, they have a very strong channel of their buses infotainment channels. So certainly for other projects, it's a good point that if this is longer and it's more kind of clear that it will be more longer there, then these kind of channels are very useful.
Okay, thanks. Looking at the time, let's move into the last column of engagement strategies that can be, like Delphine pointed out in her slides, maybe citizen dialogues, crowdsourcing campaign, co-creation workshops, tech sessions, demo sessions. Just add some answers there, whatever pops to your mind. So how to engage really physically, or workshops, hackathon. So not per se the leaflets or the resources to communicate, but more the events and really engage people to use and increase the uptake of these shuttles. Maybe we lost all your creativity in the first 4 columns. See some new sticky notes there. Focus groups. I think in the meantime, Torben, you invited us to Bremen in September. Could you tell us a bit more about the venue? Maybe he left. A quite cost-efficient way to invite people to your. Just put a link there and leave. So looking at the engagement column, I see some demo sessions, focus groups, in-person surveys, tryout sessions, presentations among companies, employees. Maybe it's nice to hear from some pilots which have not yet started, but looking at these sticky notes, are you planning to use tech sessions or focus groups, for instance? Maybe Simao from Aveiro?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we are thinking about it. We are still defining the Tech Week agenda, and this could be a possibility. Yes. We are still under decision for what we can arrange, because we have other initiatives on autonomous mobility that have been recently accepted, and maybe we can find here an opportunity to leverage this with some sessions. Yes, one session, I would say. but not confirmed yet. I would like to, but not confirmed yet.
Okay. And if I recall correctly, you were also planning to have an application, right? To let users see
Yes,
how the shuttle works. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's on the works. Correct. I think we have here also someone from Ubiware. We have discussed this yesterday.
Yes, hi.
Okay.
Yes, hi. Yes, the application is under works. We will try to have it finished by the time of the demonstration. And the idea is for the user to also have information at the tip of their hands.
And would you say this is a low-cost way to engage people, or I would
say that's one of the activities. Yes, the application for the immediate usage for the demo. However, since we have integrated the demo in the Tech Week, so the demo will benefit from all the communication actions and media that are expected to be done during the coverage of the event. And additionally, and that needs to be planned as soon as we have the final conclusion for the purchasing process, to the allocation of the drivers, and also to have students from the hopefully from the R&D area of telecommunications to be kind of hosts during the demo sessions of the shuttle, in order to avoid having only the driver, the licensed driver, having also a host that can have kind of the more friendly and knowledgeable way to receive people and explain the advantages of this solution.
And that you also maybe think about ways to ensure that people know where they can find the information in the app. As Pirko pointed out, maybe a telephone number would be sufficient already, but yeah, how to let the public know that there is an app. Yeah.
I think that, sorry,
Yes,
I think that all the communication surrounding the project will have the explanation of both the demonstration and the application for people to be able to understand both things and how they work together. It's the best way to ensure that whoever participates in the demonstration understands how both work. So either through social media or through pamphlets and information, even QR codes are an option to help people understand how everything works and to have the information directly given to them.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, looking at the time, maybe we can start to go to some sort of conclusion. I see some very interesting, yeah, and very different sticky notes or answers, at least in the sticky notes. I think the main thing that I have learned, which I think Delphine pointed out at the beginning, that it's very specific for who you wish to target. And if you have defined that and thought about other stakeholders, only then, if you have clear definition of who the target audience is, you can start looking at the communication resources, but also given your budget. I think we all agree that, well, social media might be low cost, maybe not per se the biggest impact, as Christian said, but it's highly dependent on how much resources you have and defining your target audience upfront to eventually engage enough people.
Yeah, I guess there is no one single solution for a pilot. So depending on the context and the target audience, you have to select the suitable options. So what we can do in the deliverable that we are going to write is at least make an overview of all the possible solutions and options that we know of, and indicate what works well, what has impact, what maybe doesn't work that well, so that we provide a lot of information for future pilots to select the adequate campaigns. I think that's the best that we can do, and we will collect and compile all the information that we've gotten today, and also through the experience of the different pilots, and hopefully in the coming months we will have additional information and experience, and hopefully still some of the pilots that are still going to run can benefit from what we discussed today. So if some options are to be selected there, that would be a win. So that would be good.
Yeah, please let us know if you've changed, well, not per se now, or you changed your plans in the future to construct such an educational campaign, and learn from each other. I think that's the main objective of this project, to see all these different use cases, what works, what doesn't work. Yeah, please not reinvent the wheel, everyone. Just try to learn from each other and see how we can optimize these campaigns.
I would just like to add, coming back to Christian's question from before, I thought it was referring more to the engagement activities than to the communication tools, like which one to choose if your resources are limited. And I would say just, focus again on who you want to reach. And even if it's something small, just talk to people, have your you have a safety driver on board anyway, so gather some feedback from the people using the service, and perhaps do some small activities like a focus group. It doesn't take that much effort. Of course, you do need to prepare it a little bit, but even if you just have gathered like 5 or 6 people, you can already get a lot of input, bring them together just for an hour or two. And you already can get some qualitative feedback as well. So I would really recommend, if you have several specific target groups, try to do one for each of them, like one with elderly people, one with maybe tourists, or with people from a certain company that you are targeting. It doesn't take that much effort, and it will really, you can learn a lot from it.
Okay, I guess we are getting to the end of this session. I would like to thank you all for your participation. I think we have some nice input for the deliverable. We have learned some new things. That's always good. We are not going to continue to talk until exactly 12 o'clock. I think we should reward ourselves for finishing in time. And thank you all. I guess we should say happy summer holiday, because summer holidays are starting, maybe not for everyone at the same time. There will be several online meetings, and hopefully in a couple of months we will see each other physically in Lisbon. Thank you for your attention, and see you next time.
Thank
Cheers.
you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.